Welcome back. We're here. We're still working on the 03 Mustang. We're doing front lower control arms today. If you missed any of the previous Mustang videos, I'll link a link right here so you can check them out. And while you're here, please like and subscribe. So I just finished up the tie rods and we're moving into the control arms. The brand that I bought are BMR. They are red and they are light years lighter than the stock ones. So let's get to it. So I went with the BMR control arms and I've heard mixed reviews on them. I really like them. They're lightweight. I think they're going to be a vast improvement on the control arms that are on the car. They're greasable, made in the USA. I like them. What can I say? So the first day I really thought I was going to get one on, but the bolts, they were really stuck on. I sprayed a lot of penetrating oil, PB blaster, and you know, the first day you're getting the right wrenches and all that stuff and getting acclimated with what you're doing. This is the nut on that Big Daddy bolt down there. I couldn't really get an impact wrench down there and the bolt was very long and I didn't have a deep socket. Anyways, I also couldn't really get a breaker bar. I just didn't have the right space and the right leverage. So I was able to push on this one with my foot and get it loose. You know, keeping in mind that this whole job would be obviously a lot easier if I had a lift, which I don't, so you gotta make do with what you have. So the first day was really just spent loosening the bolts and then I hand tightened everything back to wait for the next day. So my goal was to do one side of these control arms and I spent a solid hour and a half just trying to get the bolts off. It's getting dark, so I just snug the bolts back on, and then tomorrow I can complete one side. I expected to get one done, and that didn't happen because the bolts were really stuck. The bolts were bolting. I sprayed tons of PB blaster on them. Somebody watched one of my short videos and they were like, well, what kind of penetrating oil are you using? And I was like, PB blaster. And they said, well, have you tried K and Y? And they got me. For a second I was like, is this some kind of different penetrating oil that's gonna help me with the bolts? And then I realized that he got me good. So no, I don't think that's one that you try with cars. But anyways, so it took a whole day to figure out that I wasn't gonna get the bolts off. And I sprayed PB blaster, let it all sit. And then the following day I got the bolts off, but then I couldn't get the ball joint out of its socket. I think it would have been easier ripping my own eyeball out of its socket at a certain point. I definitely wanted to at a certain point. So. There's a little bolt on what looks to be, I don't know, maybe the cross member or something. Anyways, this little head of the bolt is keeping my control arm from coming out. Control arm bolt from coming out, so. Well, I'm just kind of jacking up this control arm because it's going to put less pressure on that bolt and hopefully I'll be able to slip it right out. So I had researched that the steering rack would possibly have to move forward to remove the bolt, and it ended up being true. Many people are wondering probably why I'm not using an impact gun or why I'm not using a breaker bar, and I'll tell you why. The end of this bolt has a little 8mm head on it, and you hold that down while you loosen up the nut so it doesn't turn in the back, because the back of the bolt is really hard to get to. So that's why I'm not using an impact gun. And then breaker bar, I couldn't really get the right leverage under there. So 2 ratchets, not a big deal. And then you just pry that steering rack up just enough to be able to slide that bolt. And I'm sure some of you are wondering if I removed those inner tie rods if that bolt would have come out. And no, where that bolt hit was the steering rack, not the tie rod. Trust me, I know this because I just replaced the tie rods. So, yes, keep that in mind when you're sending me hate comments. I was using my legs to pry the steering rack forward, and then I was trying to use my arms to pull the bolt out. It was a stretch of physical stretch and a stretch of my patience. So this is gonna be day lost track. I got stuck on a couple things with removing the lower control arms, primarily the bolts. So the steering rack needed to come forward to remove the front control arm bolts. And then the bolts are just really stuck, obviously, and I did spray a lot of penetrating grease on them and let them sit, but it's in an awkward position, so it's just hard to get a lot of leverage since it's under the car. Obviously this job would be like 1,000 times easier with a lift, which I don't have, and you gotta make do with what you got. So this day I should be able to get that lower control arm off and maybe do both sides, but one of the biggest bummers is I don't get out here till later on in the day and I lose light, and I got a project in my garage, so I can't take up the garage space. But whatever, it is what it is. Let's go. Unless you have struggled with this exact same job on this car, please save your comments and your death threats. So I know that you hit it on a knuckle, and I know that you give it a good whammer jammer molly-whopping with a sledgehammer. And if that doesn't work, I know that you use one of those pickle fork things. All of these things that I know, and all of these things that I have. And all of these things did not work. So I'm going to go through the steps. The first rational step was, first of all, I'm leaving the control arm bolted in. So it's not just hanging there, you know, putting pressure the wrong way. So it's bolted in, right? First thing that I did, obviously, was I sprayed everything with PB Blaster. I let it soak. It's been soaking for days at this point, and I've been whacking it with a sledgehammer right at the knuckle, right where you're supposed to shock it. So I tried getting in there with a screwdriver, hitting that. I tried various hammers. I tried more whacking with the sledgehammer. I tried sitting there thinking and staring at it. And of course I tried the Pickle Fork several times. I tried hitting it some more. And then I just started, you know, hitting the control arm. I thought, I'm just going to whack this. I'm going to replace it. I don't need to take care of it. Let me get this thing out of the way. And that didn't work. So I brought out a few other separating tools here. I had to remove the shock. At this point, I did pull out the bolts in the back to try to get some more leverage and clearance for maximum whacking. And if you're gonna comment that it's hanging on that brake line, it is not hanging on the brake line. Trust me, there's not a lot of tension on that brake line. It is sitting in that bucket, enjoying life and the beating that I am giving it. Yeah, I bent that tool, and then finally I was like, you know what, good, just, you know, screw this. I might break the car, I might need a new hub, I might need to throw the car off a cliff. I'm gonna win this. So once you hit that like F it mode, that's usually when I either hurt myself or I break something on the car, but there's really nothing to talk me out of that mode. So I realized that all my methods aren't working. And is it really a matter of strength? Is it really just because I'm a weakling? Could it be that I just need to have more muscle or to be on steroids? Possibly. Help me.
What happened?
I just can't separate this.
You can't drop it down?
I can't separate it.
Well, where's your big fucking hammer? You put the other side on already?
No, I've been working on separating this for 3 fucking days now.
Oh fuck. Are you kidding me?
No, and I've tried like I've tried the actual proper tools. I've hit it for 3 days. Here you have it. I've been working on this thing for days, and I just wasn't strong enough. It just really needed a good whack. He whacked it. Whack-a-mole. Mollywop. It came, you know, off within like seconds. So, back to the job. Can lift these new ones in, put the bolts on, but at this point I do realize that I am losing light really fast. And unfortunately, I'm gonna need to make a decision where I'm gonna either work in the dark and the cold. The dark is one thing, the cold, that's my hands start aching, my brain starts aching. That's when it gets rough. My neighbor knocked out the other side because he was there, and I begged him to, but wrapping it up. Finally did get it out, but it was with the help of my neighbor and a hammer. He just came down to a strength thing. I was like hitting it as hard as I could in the spot you're supposed to hit, and with the same, you know, size hammer, he came along, he just hit it harder, and it popped out. So I'm a girl. I'm not an American Gladiator, and that's fine. Call me if you want to know what he was grinding over there, because it's top secret. So things got dark. I couldn't really record the installation of the second one because I lost lights, I lost my camera battery, I lost my cell phone battery. Everything basically went dark. So I had to just do what I could to get the car back together so I could park it. All right, so what did I do? So, just a recap on the video. To remove the existing control arms in the front, you do have to remove these two front steering rack bolts, 1 and 2. This one's pretty easy because you can put a little wrench on the top one and then a big one on the bottom, so you don't have to get behind it and hold that down from spinning. So once these are removed, you can pry the steering rack forward to get to the existing control arm bolts. Another one that has to be removed is this one's okay. This one has to be removed. So this comes out in order for you to be able to slide this existing one out. And then the biggest baddie to deal with was this ball joint. So getting this to pop out. And once that was, you know, completely dropped out of the way, you're able to pop the new one in, which I have done. I'm gonna just add some grease to these fittings and just torque everything up. So it's 124 foot-pounds for these rear, and then it's 129 for this guy right here. It is hard to get a socket on here because you've got the strut in the way. I had to remove it on the other side. I'm going to see with my new tools if there's a way around this. And I'm going to install the new sway bar end link as well. So basically just going to torque everything down and wrap this up. Don't forget, you should torque these down when the car is in normal riding height position. Have fun with that.
She come out of break of night, the pink skies waving goodbye.
You can take a look at, let's see here. So the little boots are ripped, and it's, yeah, I mean, you know, they're like 22 years old, so it was time. And for the cost, why not? I was really happy with it. I'm so happy I did this. I'm going to probably do the rears next. I feel like I can throw these away finally. bitch ass motherfucker. Where's my fucking washer? The dessert of the job, these sway bar end links. If you've made it this far, you've enjoyed some colorful language coming from me. Hashtag you are welcome. These were fun to put on. Like for reals, they were fun. It was an enjoyable job. I don't know why they make the head of that bolt so short though. It kept slipping out. That's what she said. This is my tactic for getting my tires on. I use my feet. And every time I use my feet, I think of those people that actually don't have hands that have to use their feet. And I appreciate my hands even more. Thank you so much for watching. I sure enjoyed sharing this with you. I'll see you next time. Bye. Another exciting thing that happened to me this week is I went to Harbor Freight. I picked up some things. Let's take a look. So I spent the big bucks on this. I spent the big bucks on the Icon hex bit socket set. I needed the large sizes. I didn't have the large sizes, so these are the large sizes. These are going to help me with many things in life. So excited about that. The other thing, I don't have a full set of large deep throat sockets. So these sizes, 10 all the way up to 32, because I experienced a lot of cases on the on the Mustang where there was a bolt through it, you know, so you couldn't get a socket on. So these deep, I call them deep throat sockets. They're just deep impact, but it's so much more fun to call them deep throat sockets. Do you hear what I hear? Alright, last but not least, I didn't have the larger sizes with these open-ended wrenches, so I had to use a Crescent wrench, and I hate using Crescent wrenches. So now I've got all the sizes that I could possibly need, including the 24 and the 22 that I really needed for this job. So I cheaped out $28. I'm sure they're going to last me a lifetime. Merry Christmas to me.